Hello everybody. In this Python tutorial we're going to go over how to create a bar chart with multiple bars. So before we get started, let's go ahead and run our code and show you what the chart will look like. Okay, so this is what the chart will look like. So now let's go ahead and go over our code. The first thing we did here is we imported matplotlib.pyplot. We also imported matplotlib.patches and we imported numpy. Next, here we created the data for our x and y axis. And just to show you an example, the y1 list values here correspond to the green bar values. The y2 corresponds to the red bar values. The y3 corresponds to the orange. The y4 corresponds to the purple bars. And the y5 corresponds to the blue bars. Now let's point out one more thing regarding these y values. You can see that we have these bars grouped. So for example, here we have group A, group B, group C, group D, and group E. If you were to look at the values for these Y values, and if you just go from top down to the bottom, so for example, if you go from 1, 2, 2, 4, 5, that would show you the values for each group, okay? So again, if you look at the y1 values, those are the green bars, and you can see that the green bar values correspond. That's 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, which matches this list. And if you were to look at the values for this group A, then those would correspond to the values going down, or the first element of each y value, and that would be 1, 2, 2, 4, 5. So you can see that those correspond 1, 2, 2, 4, 5. Okay, next for the x-axis here, we use a numpy arrange, and then we use the length to put in the count for one of our y values. And we want the y values and the x values to match. So we just use one of our y values. You could use any of them, but we just use y1. And that will give us a range of values with the count of 5, and that will help us to place things onto the x-axis. The next thing we did down here is we created the code to plot our data. So the first thing we did is we created a bar width, and that is set to 0.15. So the current bar widths for each of these bars is 0.15. Then we use the plot.bar and we plot all of our bars. So we use a plot.bar for the green, the red, the orange, the purple, and the blue. Now notice that we use plt.bar, and then inside the round brackets for all of these we put in 5 arguments. The first argument is the x that we created here, and that simply helps us to create a location on the x-axis so we can start placing things on the x-axis, or so it knows where to place it on the x-axis. The second argument is our y data that we created here. For the first bar we use y1. The second we use y2, y3, y4, y5. And remember, y1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 correspond to the colors, and you can see that over here in the legend. So y1 is green, y2 is red, y3 is orange, y4 is purple, y5 is blue. Okay, so we put in our x-axis values, our y-axis values. Then for the third argument, we want to put in our bar width, and we'll go over that more here in just a second. Then for our fourth argument, we want to specify the color. And then for our fifth argument, we use a z order. And in this example, we just set that to 2. And the reason we did that is because that allows these bars to be in front of the grid lines. So notice these grid lines. We have some gray grid lines here. Now, if we take out the z order, so let's just take out the z order for the red bar. And we run that again, you can see that the gray lines are over top of the red bars. And it probably looks better if those lines are behind the bars. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that z order back. So that's why we've put the z order in these round brackets for each of these bars. Okay, so now back to the bar width. Notice for our x argument, for the first one we just put in x. Then for the second one we put in x plus the bar width. For the third we put in x plus the bar width times 2. For the fourth one, we put in x plus the bar width times 3. And for the fifth, we put in x plus the bar width times 4. Now, the reason we did this is so these bars don't get placed on top of each other. Okay, so for this first one, this is going to appropriately place each green bar on the x-axis. Okay, so you can see the green bar is here, 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 and here. Now for the red bar, we use x plus the bar width. And what that does is it uses the x location and then it moves over to place the next bar. And these all do the same thing. So for example, the orange bar starts in one place and then it moves itself over 2 bar widths so that the bars don't overlap. And same thing for the purple and for the blue. Okay, so it's just using a starting point and then it's moving over so many bars to place itself appropriately on the x-axis so that the bars don't overlap. Okay, so moving on. The next thing we did here is we set our labels for the x-axis. And to put the labels on the x-axis, we use plt.xticks. And then again, this first argument helps with the placement or the location on the x-axis. And you might have to play with this just a little bit to get it just right. In this case, to put the A, B, C, D, and E in the middle for each group of bars, we used x plus the bar width times 2. Okay, so that's the location on the x-axis. And then the second argument here are the actual labels. So this is the location, and then these are the labels that correspond to that location. Then here we set the title, here we set the x-axis label, and here we set the y-axis label. Okay, so to create our legend, we create variables for each of the different colors, and then we assign impatches.patch, and inside the patch round brackets we put our color and our label. Okay, so we created the green patch, the red patch, the orange patch, the purple patch, and the blue patch to correspond to the colors for our bars. And that's what you see here on the legend. And then finally we use plt.legend, and inside the legend round brackets we assign a list to the handles, and inside the list we put all of our patch variables. Okay, so we have the green patch, red patch, and so on. Then next, to create our grid, in this case, we just wanted the side-to-side grid lines that correspond to the y-axis values. So for that, we use plt.grid, and inside the round brackets, we assign y to the axis. Now, as we mentioned before, if you don't use this z order, those grid lines will go over top your bars. So let's run this again, and you can see that the grid lines go behind the bars. And unless you want those grid lines to look like this, for example, on the red bar, and to go over top your bars, you can put that z order argument in for your plot.bar. And finally, don't forget to use the plt.show, and you should be good to go. So that's all we have for this Python tutorial on how to create a bar chart with multiple bars. We will be doing many more Python tutorials in the near future. Join us for those, and we'll see you next time.